Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be testing out some brand new releases. So I've got 3 here. I did a video like this only about a month ago and there just seemed to be a lot of releases in July, and 2 of these are designer releases and 1 is a niche release. And I'm just going to talk you through them, tell you whether I like these fragrances and whether I would buy them or not. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith and I make videos all about perfume and perfume science. So if that interests you, then please consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and also please like this video if you do like this video. So the first fragrance I'm going to talk about is actually one from Viktor and Rolf, and it's called Good Fortune. And you've probably seen this fragrance absolutely everywhere. It's really been one that has been talked about on YouTube, and I've deliberately tried to avoid watching any reviews of Good Fortune because I didn't want mine to be influenced. So I'll admit I was pretty intrigued by this Viktor and Rolf fragrance, and I don't really know why, because yeah, I mean that bottle, it's really quite kitsch, isn't it? And I know they like their kitsch bottles with Bonbon and with Flowerbomb with the grenade, but still this has taken the kitschness to a whole new level for Viktor and Rolf. Yeah, the bottle looks a little bit teenage in a way. I wish they'd perhaps made it in a darker colour. I think the purple is just what's making it look so teenage, but I kind of get it, and it does fit with the fragrance and the idea of the fragrance. So the first time I smelled this fragrance, I smelt it blind, and I just felt like I was transported back, 15 years. It feels like something from that time period. It feels like something I've already smelt. So when you initially spray this fragrance, all you really get is a feeling of jasmine. Jasmine is just the biggest note in this fragrance. If you hate jasmine, just don't even bother trying it because you're not going to like it. It is a very jasmine heavy fragrance. And I wouldn't say it's like, like one of those piercing, high-pitched jasmines. It's something that's not quite so in your face. It's dulled a little bit. It's got the edges taking off it. It's not like a sharp jasmine. It's quite a smooth, almost dulled jasmine in a way. So the jasmine in this fragrance is kind of musky in a way. It sort of feels like it's softened and sort of almost coated in something. So this fragrance initially starts quite sweet with the jasmine, but throughout the fragrance as it dries, a bitterness appears and also a kind of yogurty vanilla. It's really quite a strange vanilla, this. It's not something that's super gourmand at all, and it's really overtaken by the bitterness of the fragrance. The bitterness, I think, is actually some of the other notes in this fragrance, which honestly I wouldn't have been able to identify. So one of the listed notes is gentiana, and gentian, if you don't know what gentian is actually the national flower of Belgium. And gentian is something that is found in things like Angostura bitters and also in Aperol, if you had an Aperol spritz. So it does have that sort of bitter edge to it, gentian, and I think that's what I'm smelling in this fragrance as that bitterness. There's also fennel listed as a note in this fragrance, and honestly I wouldn't have been able to identify fennel at all. So upon first spraying Good Fortune, I was immediately struck by a resemblance to other fragrances in my collection, and I didn't know which one it was. I just rushed upstairs and I was trying out lots of different ones and trying to find the one that was in my head that I didn't really know which one it was. And the one that I finally settled on was actually Black Opium Intense. So this fragrance, whilst it's not exactly the same as Good Fortune, to me they definitely have similarities, and there's definitely a similar vibe to these 2 fragrances. So they both have that kind of bitterness, because this one has absinthe and the other fragrance has that gentian and fennel note. This fragrance has licorice and the other fragrance has fennel, so I think subconsciously I might be connecting them in that way. Maybe I do smell the fennel. And also this fragrance is very heavy on vanilla and the other fragrance has vanilla. So I think that's really where the similarity is coming from with these 2 fragrances. They're not the same, just a similar vibe, but that was the one that I was thinking of. So overall, Good Fortune is a bitter jasmine vanilla fragrance, and I'd say the projection is really quite good from Good Fortune for maybe the first hour or so, but then it really begins to fade. And actually on my skin, I'd say this doesn't actually last that long, maybe 3.5 hours, and it's really gone. I think it really does have quite poor longevity. Maybe it'll last longer on clothes. I haven't tried. So do I like this fragrance? Well, honestly, I don't mind it. It's something that is just something I've smelt before, really. I think the fact that I've got Black Opium Intense has made me not really want to purchase it. And ultimately, I think even if I didn't have Black Opium Intense, I probably still wouldn't purchase it. It just doesn't feel that special, and I was expecting more from a Viktor and Rolf new pillar fragrance. So I looked at the price for this Viktor and Rolf fragrance, and currently 30ml costs £50, which I don't think is a bad price point, but it's really on the pricier side for designer. So no, I won't be picking this one up, but I wouldn't say it's bad, it's just not that interesting. So the second fragrance is actually from a French niche house, and it's from Cabanel. So you may remember, if you've been watching my channel for a while, that I tried out 3 different Cabanel fragrances back in November, December, and I was so impressed with all of them. I really liked the fragrances that I tried from Cabanel, thanks to Paola Bianca, who sent me them. So the new summer release is called Peau Salee, and Peau Salee literally means salty skin. And I won this sample from their Instagram page, and I was really pleased to win this, to be able to try it out. So Peau Salee is trying to evoke that feeling of being on a beach, and I think it definitely achieves that. This fragrance is definitely very salty. It has an almost tropical kind of white floral feeling about it, and it's also a little bit woody in the dry down. This is really not a sweet fragrance. It does really remind me of sort of green coconuts, you know, the water you get inside green coconuts, a really fresh water to begin with. But that is really very quickly smothered by salt. The salt really is the biggest note for me in this fragrance. And whilst there are florals, I again think the salt dominates the florals. So the florals in this are frangipani and also jasmine. And I would say, even though I do smell the frangipani, it's definitely more of a jasmine fragrance. The florals and the salt in this fragrance just really give me that feeling of baking on a beach. You know, when you're sunbathing and you've been in the sea and you've got that hot, salty skin. That's what this fragrance reminds me of. It reminds me of being too hot on a beach and kind of cooking myself. Spraying this fragrance just makes me want to reach for water. It is very salty. And whilst I normally like salty fragrances, this one is just a little bit too much sometimes. I think this is something that I don't really want sprayed near my face, because I think this fragrance could really give me a headache. So the dry down of this fragrance is almost metallically salty, and there is a bit of a dry woodiness to it as well, but I do also get a slight rubberiness, and I don't really know what note that's coming from, but it has really begun to bother me. I didn't really get that the first time I wore this fragrance, and now it's just every time I spray this, I smell something rubbery, and yeah, it's off-putting for me. I get a similar thing from Calvin Klein's Reveal actually. There's something rubbery in that fragrance too that I find a little bit off-putting. And yeah, this one has that similar vibe to it, sort of almost like a tyre kind of rubbery. It doesn't feel very fresh. It doesn't feel fresh enough for a summer. I think this is something that I'd want to wear maybe in the autumn, when it was a little bit cooler, just to kind of remind myself of summer. So this fragrance lasts ages, and it also projects really well. So I got 8+ hours out of this. And also from something that I'd sprayed on my arm, I could smell it, you know, at a couple of feet away. It was something that you don't need to press your face up to your skin to be able to smell. You definitely get wafts of this fragrance. And you don't need much of it either. It's really quite a strong fragrance. And I really don't think this is for many people actually. I think this is something that's in that kind of realm, that same realm as things like Womanity, Calvin Klein's Reveal, Alien Mirage, Alien Eau Extraordinaire, things like that. Fragrances like that. If you like those fragrances, you might like this fragrance. If you don't like any of those, there's no way you'll like this fragrance, because those all have echoes of this one. So, Peau Salee, would I buy it? No, I wouldn't. I don't think I like this fragrance sufficiently. I think that there's something rubbery in the dry down of the fragrance that I'm not particularly fond of. And I think Cabanel have a lot nicer fragrances than this one. I think this is definitely something that is not going to be a crowd-pleasing fragrance. This fragrance is something that you need to test, I think, especially if you are hesitant with salty fragrances, because this is incredibly salty. I think that there will be someone out there who loves this fragrance and who wants to buy it, but that just isn't me. So that's Peau Salee. So the final fragrance is actually one from Diesel, and it's called Diesel D. So I ordered this fragrance thinking it was male marketed and I was just going to try it anyway, but actually it's unisex marketed, and I wouldn't say from the advertising that it's a very cohesive fragrance. So if you look at the bottle, it's kind of see-through and it looks almost like an Only the Brave bottle. It looks like it's been handled, like it's, you know, it's like a fist almost has been gripping it. And to me, the bottle and the actual branding of the fragrance are very different things. They don't seem to hang together as a line. So how does this fragrance smell? Well, what really hit me was a really soapy lavender, and the lavender gets soapier as it dries down. I also was really struck by something warm and spicy, and I didn't really know what it was. I felt like it was probably cinnamon, but actually when I checked the notes, it's actually ginger in this fragrance. I was really shocked by the base note in this fragrance. So the base note is listed as vanilla, and there's no way I would ever have pinned vanilla on the base of this fragrance. I feel like, to me, this fragrance is more like a very warm, kind of almost grainy feeling, ambery ambroxan. It definitely has a texture to it, and it's something that I don't particularly like. The opening of the fragrance is absolutely fine for me. It's not something I choose, but it's tolerable. The end of the fragrance I just do not like. I didn't want this on my skin by the end. The opening smells to me a bit like a Link shower gel. It definitely has that sort of male grooming product kind of vibe about it. I'm kind of shocked that Diesel have brought this fragrance out actually, because I get the idea behind it. I get the idea that they're trying to evoke a pair of comfy jeans. I get the idea that they're trying to make something unisex that everybody can enjoy. I get the idea that they're trying to make something that's renewable, something that's refillable. I think that's all very admirable. But I just don't think they've done it very well, and I think it's just not that interesting. It's something for me that I just find off-putting. It's just not very nice. I wouldn't want to smell this on my partner. I definitely don't want to smell it on me. And ultimately, out of all Diesel fragrances, I just wouldn't choose this one. And I don't really think many people would actually. I just think it's a bit boring, and it just smells very, very synthetic. So Diesel D retails for £32 for 30ml. Would I buy it? No, I just don't like it. There's nothing really more to be said. It does project quite well and it does last quite well on my skin, but I really didn't want it to because I don't like it. So that's Diesel D. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know, have you tried any of these fragrances and what do you think of them? And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.